Oh, I am so
Love
excited to
that.
introduce our next speaker. You may have seen her around. Absolutely. This is Lauren McCay. And Lauren, like Adele, I believe I met through Darren Darnborough, which Kathleen and Emmy's crew all remembered being on Darren's red carpet last year. And what fun that was. So let me introduce you to Miss Lauren McCay. Miss Lauren McCay is a 5 times Emmy Award winner. She has a versatile career from journalism, documentaries, and entertainment. And she is a professional solo traveler. She's going to talk today with us a little bit about your intuition, fight for your intuition. The thing that you may not know about Lauren is that she told me this. I'm like, no, no one's told me this one yet before. You get to be unique in this. So when this woman, have you ever had pancakes? They're beautiful and they're fluffy and they've got, maybe syrup or jam or butter on them. So you put butter on your pancakes or syrup or jam. Well, Lauren eats hers with Brussels sprouts. She eats Brussels sprouts with her pancakes, and however you feel about that, you can put it in the chat. The music she is rocking to today and right now in her life, because she listens like most of us to many, is Coldplay. Oh my gosh. There is a video of them to the concert where they have everyone singing the song. It's just incredible. Um, the she is going to do an incredible gift, an incredible gift. So she's going to do kind of a private let's wrap gift. You're going to chat with her. It's going to be very priceless, but it's about $1,500 gift, I believe. $1,500, $2,500, what we got here, and it is $2,500. And you are going to sit with her and chat. Tell her maybe you've got a project. Maybe you want to do a documentary. Maybe you want to do a show. Maybe you want to learn about the press. Maybe you want to be connected to some people in media. Maybe you got something going on that you would really like to have a conversation with her about. Who knows what's going to happen out of that conversation? But we know something, and we know it's going to be magical. So, Miss Lauren McCay, welcome to the Stand Up, Speak Up, and Show Up Yes You Summit.
Hey, everyone. And thank you, Deb. I like that we were thinking the same, great minds think alike. I said, let's come up with something bright, yellow.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep.
It's good to
Yellow's a
be
good
here,
color.
though.
Yeah, the black. I've got the same eyeshadow on. It's good. That's funny. When I saw you, I was like, of course she does. Of course she does.
Yeah.
So look, I just dropped the mic that you have 5 Emmys. So you've been a little busy. I know that we're going to talk a little bit about that. Um, there must be a story there. Like, there must be a story. Like, was that a multiple, like divine, 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 divine? But what makes someone have so many stories to tell and so many stories that you want to share in that way?
Man, I feel like you live long enough, you'll have stories for days, right? And I have put myself in the story making business, and it's been nothing short of a ton of stories. You know, Starting out in journalism, I think when I first started out in journalism, I didn't really know why. I just felt pulled or called to it, right? Which is that intuition. And then as my life has gone on, my purpose for my why. Someone said earlier, like getting clear about your why. My why has gotten a lot clearer as my own personal path has gotten a lot clearer. So that's informed what stories I seek out, what projects I hop on, and what I end up creating. So, yeah, I got stories for days, girl. Stories for days.
Yes, today's. Obviously, you're able to tell them well. I got to ask this question because, of course, we were just, many people here probably watched the Oscars on TV and they zoom in when someone wins and what's that like? Tell us, what does it feel like to hear your name called and you walk up? What is that moment like?
It's 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 kind of surreal, in a good way, and not to sound cliche. So, a lot of the Emmys that I have won have been actually around a time when I was going through a lot of turmoil. Um, so I was, so the very first Emmy that I won for myself, was a show that I created, produced, hosted. And at the time, I had a boss, a male boss, that when I pitched the idea, he laughed at me and told me that There's no way I could do it. And he would hire someone else to do it and hire a producer to do it. Well, I went back a couple months later, fought for it. And I said, let me just prove you wrong. Let me just, can I just do a pilot of the series? That show ended up doing so well. It won an Emmy. I won an Emmy that first year, a National Gracie Award. It ended up going to the network, the national PBS at that time. But when I won that Emmy, I think I was like sitting literally right next to my boss, same one that told me I couldn't do it. So, you might feel like, stick it to the man, you know what I mean? But I think I felt genuinely at that time, I wasn't fully in full, like, essence of knowing me and my power. So I actually felt embarrassed, like, because I felt like, oh my God, he's going to hate me even more because he had been putting me through so much narcissistic abuse, to be honest. And so it was a surreal feeling, like, oh my God, I can't believe I won. And oh my God, what's Monday going to be like? Which is, I don't know, me saying it out loud is kind of like, wow, that's such a terrible feeling. But it didn't stop me. It never stopped me. And as much as I may have gotten down or I may have gotten sad, I kept rising, I kept fighting, I kept going. And so that first Emmy showed me there's something inside. I got something here. There's something here. There's a there. And so I've just kept following ever since.
Well, do you love this circle that we're in? And I'm talking to the people that are listening by streaming and the people that are listening to television and people that are listening all over. Like, we're in a really beautiful energetic safe circle because that's what happens. And thank you for sharing and being transparent because I am sure there's a lot of emotions, and I don't even know why I asked you that question. I don't even know why it wasn't one of the questions I was going to ask you. It's not on the list. You know what I mean? Of what I had agenda for, but I was just, it must be such an interesting experience and what someone goes through as they're rising. I'm super excited. In May, we have two full, incredible rising panels of women talking about what it's like to rise because it can be interesting and it can be interesting. And what do people say to you on Monday? And even if you didn't have an experience with someone with that personality, maybe what is it like to rise, and the ones that have been close to us or hanging out with us aren't comfortable with that, all sorts of things. And those are the things that can kind of keep us small. Those are the words that get into our head, right? And so I love that. Thank you so much. You did We wanted to talk about intuition and respecting our intuition in a very different way. And how did that play a success? You did, I think it was called the Gang Member Series, and you said that your intuition really, really was a big deal in that. Can you talk about that a little?
Yeah. Before I do that, I want to go back to the point of this is a safe place. I don't honestly think I've ever verbally said that out loud, what I just said about how I felt on Monday. So
Mm.
thank you for asking that question. I think it had to be pulled up out of me. So I appreciate that. Um, so when I had first started out in journalism, I randomly had this vision that like came in my head and left. And it was me interviewing gang members and I could see it in my head what it looked like. At that time, I was still in college. I didn't know what journalism was going to do. And hard news was definitely not something that I had a full passion for then. Fast forward 10 years later, I'm an investigative reporter for ABC in Cleveland. And the vision would come up every once in a while, but I would just be like, what? Why is it? What is this going to be? I don't know. Um, there was an opportunity to tell some stories about shootings that were happening in the city. And I always have my mind and my pulse and my heart on what are we not talking about? Like we're talking about all the things and we have the visuals of the people that died, and not that those aren't important, but why are we not like going to the source? So I told my boss at the time, another boss, different boss, different time. I was like, well, why don't we just go and talk to the gang members and figure out what their side of the story is and what is actually happening. And in the morning meeting, my boss laughed at me again. Another boss, different laughter, different time. And he was like, you'll never get that story. You don't even try. We're going to assign you to another story. Cool. A year later, I got that story. And when I tell you, so we interviewed the gang members, eventually decided to sit down with me, 4 gang members from 2 different sides. We went into this convenience store on one of the rougher parts of town, and it was like the convenience store had like 3 different rooms that we went into, another room to another room to another room. It was like a secret room. And when I tell you, it was like I was outside of my body. I literally was sitting in the exact vision that I had had 10 years, and no one else knew it because nobody else was in my head. But I was like, this is something else. That story that my boss told me I was never going to do ended up winning 2 Emmys on its own. It went to CNN, and ended up doing fantastic. And Emmys were never even like, I never did things for Emmys. I did things because they were important stories to tell. It just was a byproduct of what I was doing. And to me, it's God, a higher power source being like, we got you. Don't worry about the naysayers and what they can't see and what they can't see your vision. The vision isn't for them to hold, it's for you to hold. And so, yeah, so I had to keep following that light, almost like a secret whisper or a little faint light that was in front of me, leading me to do that story, even when it seemed impossible.
Wow. I can feel like we need to take a breath, right? I mean, we're all listening to this story. It's captivating. Your story of these stories are captivating. And you can feel, well, look, I was going to ask you, is it as much fun as it looks? You've probably answered that question, but what's been some of the, what's been some of this process? What's some of those magical moments? I always say, like, you make a venture, like you go into the adventure, whatever, and then all of a sudden something happens that you could just never imagine. You're like, that's cool. I mean, I remember the one time I talked to my ex-husband going into church, he's like, okay, I'll go. And I'm there and I'm like, oh, hey, look, Pierce Bronson's right there. So, like those magical little moments. Has there been something, has it been as much fun? Like, what's something fun that's happened? And also, what has been? You shared some of the challenges, but what's that? What is it? What is it when we see it from the outside?
It has been, my journey in particular has been, I was just telling somebody, like, I have lived a very whole, full life. Like, I'm very ambitious. So there's part of me that's like, I got to get this next thing done, right? But when I sit and I just sit in the serenity and pause and peace of my life, I am so thankful. I have had incredible moments, like I was the reporter when Cleveland, which is my hometown and we're a sports town, go Browns, even though they're terrible, it's fine. But when LeBron won the championship for Cleveland, and like I covered the parade, and like when you're a sports town and you grew up as a sports girl and your home team, who's been like underdog forever, wins, that like epitome of my career. It was so much freaking fun. It was so fun. So then that's happened. But then I've interviewed different senators, Senator McCain, who else? I've talked to different people. I've gone different places. It has been I don't know. It's been a colorful journey. I've had some of my darkest, deepest pains come from this industry, and I've had some of my most elevated lights and wisdom and journeys. It's been all of it. I would say the things that have, people see you show up on camera and they think, oh, It's so easy. Oh, you've got it so easy. I'm like, no, honey, your girl has worked. Okay. There was a time when I was covering one of the first protests in the city as a reporter, and we didn't have enough people to cover. So I was literally, I was shooting on my own and reporting. I had my camera on record getting a wide shot. I had my phone getting a Facebook Live of the protest, and then I was editing in the van with the other hand, trying to edit so I could make the deadline. Like I'm getting chills and anxiety just thinking about it. I'm like, why did I put myself through that? But it was the thrill of the journey and of news at the time, and it has allowed me to be so skilled in what I am doing and achieving now. Um, so I don't know if I answered it. I feel like
Yeah,
I'm
no, that's
a little
absolutely great.
bored.
I mean, no, it's really good. And I want to ask you one question, then I want to talk about this solo travel thing that you got going on. Because that's something that some women have always wanted to do. I know when I went on my first solo trip, I was like, why did I not do this so far? But it's a journey. So as you go and you take that big leap and you're leaping, right? You're like, you're doing stuff that requires multiple plate spinning, I call it, from physical to emotional to whatever. How could you have prepared yourself better? How could you have
Mm,
prepared yourself better?
You know, I I honestly, I mean, you can always go back and look and say, I tell my younger self this and that and the other. But the real reality is like one thing I may say is have better boundaries. But I didn't know what my boundaries were until they got broken, right? Like I didn't fully, like I really genuinely feel like everything I've gone through, I've almost had to because I wouldn't know until you don't know until you know. Someone can tell you, like I can sit up and tell you right now, Deb, make sure you have good boundaries. Don't let them go against your boundaries. And you can be like, okay, Lauren, bet I'm gonna have good boundaries today. But until someone actually crosses your boundaries and you're like, whoa, then you're like, ah, now I see where I need to put this boundary. I never knew that I needed to put this boundary up in this way with this person until they crossed it, or until I learned to have feelings about it or know what my feelings were about it to then assess this is not loving me in the way that I love myself. Right. So, um, I think it's been a journey learning and growing. If I had to say anything, it would be give myself that grace as I learn.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's great. That's good advice. And I believe that
So much pulling on us
Mhm.
um, to tell us we're not enough or whatever it is. Um, I think giving ourselves grace in that journey is the most beautiful part. That's the destination.
And I thank you so much for sharing that. And as we grow and expand, that's why it's great when you have someone that's been on that journey a little bit with you, that person that you can banter, that person, which is why I say that we never know who we're inspiring because there's people ahead, there's people that are same, there's people like, I want to do what you're doing. And you're like, you sure? You want to go for coffee? No. But we all need that inspiring piece of advice. We need to hear that. Someone needed to hear about boundaries today, probably all of us, because we're stretching and going to the next place, which means that we're going to learn new things about ourselves, right? I know we're coming to wrap up, and I know that this room is wanting to win that incredible time with you. Tell us a little bit about you, Miss Solo Traveler. What you doing? What you going on? What is it about solo traveling that inspired you, and how did it start? Because you've been to how many places?
So I've been to 12 countries in the last 9 years. None of this is like anything that I really planned on. It just kind of happened. I started as a couple of years ago. I was actually in the process of a huge life change. I was getting divorced and I wanted to, it was a Europe trip. I wanted to do as a married couple, we got divorced instead. And I said, I'm going to go anyway. So I did. And I did London, Paris, Rome, and Greece. That was my first solo trip. And um, it was just, I tell everybody, you absolutely do yourself a favor and do one solo travel in your life at least once. I know it sounds like you're insane, but the trust that you build with yourself, with your intuition, with other people. I was in a place of grieving and wounded, and I found support and safety in places that weren't my home, in Paris and in Rome, and people that were just good to me just because they were good to me. And it got me to really see how much we are so much more connected as human beings than we are different, and our differences make us dope. And so it just inspired me to continue going. And yeah, I've done some wild things. Your girl has gone a little wild, so you don't have to do it as crazy as I've done. But I would say go for it. I usually just book my flight and where I'm going to stay, and then I leave the rest up to the universe, and it becomes a really awesome time.
Oh my goodness. I want to thank you so much for spending some time with us today. It has been inspiring and motivating and aspirational. We talk about TV, we talk about that, and it's every woman's journey, right? And honestly, I mean, as one platform sister to another, and there's many women here that are doing platforms. I mean, shining light on things that need to be talked about, creating platforms so people can hear what needs to be talked about. It's not a small quest, and I applaud you and thank you. Let's do some loving on this woman today. We're